Hello, everyone. Welcome back to A Turn of Events, where we help put a positive spin on the future of your business. I'm Annette Naif, the CEO and Creative Director of Naif Productions. We are a strategic event production company based in New York City. We specialize in corporate, social, nonprofit, and weddings. I'm really glad that you're joining us again. I have a really great speaker that I'm really excited about. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. We are doing live events, we're doing hybrid, and we are doing virtual. I know a lot of people are going more into live. We're very excited about that. We have weddings coming up, golf outings, food and wine festivals, fundraisers. We're doing all kinds of stuff. We are super, super busy this year, trying to move everybody from, last year and all the nonsense to this year and even into next year. So we're doing a lot of different fun things. If you are still concerned and you don't want to bring in a live event at this point, happy to talk to you about that and discuss, what it looks like to take a live event to a virtual platform or hybrid or even do live. So we do social, corporate, nonprofit, and weddings. Lots of different things. So reach out, happy to discuss it with you. Even if you just need to consult about it, we're happy to talk about it. Okay. Also, if you are a wedding and event planner and you are looking to start your own business, or you're struggling in your current business, join us over at our Facebook group, the Event Planner Society. Event Planner Society will put the link to the Facebook group in the chat. And it's a lot of great information. I share 30 years of my experience. I can't even believe it's been that long, but lots of great content. I do a free workshop, which gives amazing content. And there's almost 1,000 people in the group now, which we're really excited about. We just opened it up a few months ago, and we only allow event and wedding planners in the group. We don't allow vendors in there because we want to make it just for wedding and event planners. I love my vendors, but this group is just for wedding and event planners who are looking to start a business or are struggling in their current business, and with just lots of collaboration to help grow your business and network and lots of information there. So Event Planner Society, join us over there. And we will get together and talk about events and all the good stuff that's going on. Okay, so my next guest is Josephine. Oh my gosh, I stuttered. I'm so excited, I stuttered. Josefine Wanner. And I want to make sure I said her name right. We had a little technical difficulty before we started. I never got a chance to ask her. So she's going to let me know how to say her name. Josephine is the former corporate executive director, now writer and entrepreneur. After almost 20 years as a consultant and global program manager within the financial services industry, in 2019, Josephine got her wake-up call, which made her decide to take her dreams seriously. And I talk a lot about this with my event planners, taking their dreams and opening up their own business. It's always really fun. Within a couple of weeks, Josephine had resigned from her high status and well-paid job at one of Switzerland's largest banks to rediscover her purpose. She is from Switzerland, so this is really, really exciting. She made a commitment to overcome her fears and work towards creating a better life for herself. And that's what happens when you start your own business. It's all about creating your own dreams. Today, she helps other women get unstuck, figure out what it is that's truly important to them, to rediscover joy, and to set up their own successful and profitable business based on their core values. That's where her and I have amazing things in common there. So we're going to have some great conversations. To create a life without any compensation cap and time constraints. I love that. She helps others to become brave again. And I love that. Josephine, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Annette. And I'm really excited to be here too.
I know. And did I say your name correctly?
Well, it's a little bit difficult for me too, because I'm from Sweden originally, and then my last name is my husband's last name. So in Swiss German, you would say Vanda. So in English, it's Wanner. So it's like a little bit strange how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I may have said wrong, but Wanner. That's how it is.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm so excited you're here all the way from Switzerland. I have never been. It's on my bucket list to go. So now I know, another person in Switzerland. So I'm really excited about getting there someday. So you've not always been an entrepreneur, as I had stated. So what did you do before, and what made you change your career?
So we hinted a little bit that I had my wake up call, and it wasn't just like I had my wake up call. It was like from one day to another, but I had this little voice at the back of my head for like many, many, many years, but I never really listened to it. I tried to kick off new things, like maybe going entrepreneur before with friends, but I didn't really dare to take the leap. But then one day in September or August, actually, it was 2019, we learned that my father had incurable cancer. And my Google research said he would have 3 more months to live. And that was like, yeah, thank you. And that was my wake-up call. And I was like, what the heck am I doing? The corporate world had become quite toxic. It was like high pressure. I had sleepless nights. I had stomach ache when I woke up in the morning. And I was wasting my time. I was totally wasting my time, not taking my dreams or the things I wanted to do seriously. So 4 weeks later, I quit, and I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my father didn't get those 3 months. He actually got 6 weeks, but so this was pre-COVID. So I got to be there with him when he took his last breath. So that was kind of like the great thing about this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's really, really tough. And there are sometimes it takes that. Mine isn't as dramatic as that, or as sad as that. But when I started my business, the economy had crashed. And I was scared about it, obviously, but I knew that I wanted to do something. I was tired of working for somebody else and not getting the credit that I deserved and not making the money that I knew I could be making. I was making money for everybody else. And so sometimes we have those big things that happen in our life that say, okay, I need to make a change. I need to figure this out. And the fear around that, and we talk about that a lot. I have a Facebook group, as I mentioned earlier, and there are a lot of, planners on there who are wanting to start their own business, and they're very scared. They have families and they have kids and they have, it's a very scary place to be, to want to start your business. So as I mentioning fears, what fears came up during your transition?
So when I resigned, I was like really giddy and really excited about, all the options I had. All of a sudden, I could do whatever I wanted to do. And I think that was my main fear. What if I choose wrong again? Right. What if I don't find my why? Or I'm not like criticizing Simon Sinek's method or finding your why, but it definitely also is really scary, because suppressing your wishes or feelings for 30 years or whatever, and then also becoming a mother. So the last decade, I had never kind of focused on myself and what it was that I wanted to do. Right. So that was probably my biggest fear. What if I don't figure out what it is I want to do? So that was something. Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing is you need to do what you have a passion about. Because if you're not passionate about whatever it is your business is, there's not everything I love about events. There's a lot of things I don't love. But I hire people to help me with tasks that I, just don't have time with. And they might not love it either. But at the end of the day, I will pick up a broom. I will have to, I do a lot of things that I need to do, especially when I'm on site. I'll do everything. But I'm not above that. But there are many things that I don't like. But overall, I love running my business. I love running a business, but it's very stressful. You have to be the breadwinner. I have a team. My team grows and grows and grows. I'm 12 years now in business, and it's growing, and it gets bigger all the time. In fact, through COVID, it got even bigger, which is crazy. You would think that it wouldn't, and I didn't even know if I had a business. So, how did you overcome that fear? So, what made you overcome, the fear? Like, what was that?
So everyone deals with fears, or I actually like to call them challenges, because I also think that fears, when we talk about fears, that hold us back just the word. So I deal with that by educating myself. I started by, I realized if I want to, do something completely different, I need to become more visible. At the time, I didn't even have like a profile picture on LinkedIn. I would never, ever think about, posting or anything on LinkedIn. My Instagram account was extremely private. I probably had a post from 2013. So that was one of the first things, small steps. So I did an Instagram course. I did a couple of leadership courses, and I also actually did a Chief Happiness certificate, which turned out that was definitely not the way I wanted to go. But that is also part of, of finding out what it is that you want to do, right?
Right.
So I think that, I like to talk about challenges like vampires, that if you need to bring them out in the light, because then you are able to deal with them. They're not, you can't just, make them disappear with garlic and a stick in the heart. But if you put them out in the light, you can come up with actions that you actually are able then to overcome them. And sometimes it feels like a huge step or a big leap or a big mountain. But when you kind of break it down, it's more like small road bumps that you then take one after the other instead.
Right. Yeah. It always feels bigger on the other side of it. So I've said this in many of my interviews that once I get over the fear, I'm like, why did I even get upset about that? Like, why was that such a big deal? Like starting this show, I use this as a perfect example. Started it a year ago, scared to be in front of the camera. I'm a behind the scenes kind of girl. I have been an event producer for over 30 years. So I don't like being in front of a camera. I worked in film and television for 17 years. There were many times that I was asked to take this bit part or do, and I was like, yeah, no, the camera's not for me. So, but once I did this show and I got over it, it's like now I look forward to getting on and talking to people and you just become more brave about and more confident about what you know and what you talk about and things like that. So I swear I can promise you that if you have any fears about starting your own business, or when you get on the other side of it, you're going to have all different other things that are going to come up. Right. So it's never like, okay, the fear's gone away and there's never going to be any more fears about your business. It's always going to be there. You just learn to work through it differently as you're in business longer. So I know that's just, I'm just so happy though, that I feel like, and this is another thing, if you have really scared about something, it means that there's going to be something big coming along. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And also maybe if you are really scared about something, think about the worst case scenario.
Right.
What is the worst thing that can happen,
Yeah.
So for me, it was probably, would be for worse, to become completely broke, having to sell our house. Well, what could we do about that then? Well, we would sell our house before that happens, and we would move into my mom's, maybe, but that's the worst case scenario, not the most likely to happen. And even for the worst case, we have a solution if that would happen, So come up with a worst case scenario.
Yeah, for sure. And it is scary, especially when you have a family and maybe you're the only income. That can be scary. So that's understandable. But if you are visible, you said this earlier, it's really, really important. You have to be visible in your business. And as much as you may not like social media, you have to be on social media. Back in the day when I was first starting, there was no social media. So you had to and there was no meetups and there were no networking groups and there was none of that. I almost can't even remember, I didn't have a business back in those days. So, but people who you had to mail out and mark it out, and it was so limited. We have abundance of availability for us to be visible. So it's really, when I teach my workshop, if you just follow what I tell you to do in your marketing, it's impossible not to get clients, but you just have to work really hard. It never stops for us. It never stops. And even though I'm in business this long, it never stops. You would agree to that. Right? That's like,
yeah, absolutely. And as you say, also you become braver the more, because you train on it, and your kind of your comfort zone widens automatically. And when you look back, you didn't even realize, So when I did my first post, then when I when I decided, oh, I need to go on social media, I actually started with Instagram because that felt safer or less scary than LinkedIn.
Right.
And now I have no problem at all with posting on Instagram. And LinkedIn is also becoming more and more kind of like, yeah, feels okay to post there, you know? So also there, what is the worst thing that can happen? Usually it's that someone says no, or someone maybe sends you a bad comment or whatever, but it won't kill you. We're not climbing Mount Everest here or something. We're just becoming braver. Yeah.
Right. And I teach like 10 different things to market, 10 different ways to market your event. But I tell them, pick like the top 2 or 3 that you love to do and do those. And before you know it, it becomes a rhythm. When I first got on Instagram, and stories was a big deal, I was like, I can't figure this out. Like I just don't know stories. And now I'm like a maniac with stories, and my boyfriend can't understand what is the point of stories. He's like, why? It just goes away. I've tried to explain it to him, but he just doesn't understand it. So, but yeah. So what is the most common question you get?
Well, the most common question, and that is the one about money. Yeah. What do you do with the money, right? And I guess you get that too. So what should I do, you know? And we can't tell them that. No one can tell you what you should do, or at least they shouldn't do. But then again, like, bring it out in the light. You like treat it as the vampire. What is it that you're so afraid of? And again, what is the worst thing that can happen? And then you make a plan for it, right? So is there any kind of expenses that you can cut out on today already? You don't need to kind of leave your job as I did from one day to the other. Maybe there is a different stream of income that you can do. So there are like different options that you can come up with that would work for you. Don't see it as kind of like a hard stop. Because others have done it before you. So use them as inspiration and get over that road bump.
Yeah, I think, there are, if you are in a job, then stay in your job and find the time to start the business. I have a coaching program, and so what I did with me was, I knew how to do events, but I had no idea how to run the business. So I hired a coach, and that was scary. I was, starting a business. I had no income. I didn't know, I had some savings, and I did get a severance package when I left my job because I negotiated that. But it runs out really quickly. And you're still scared because you're not getting money in steadily like you always did. So, and you don't know how to price yourself. You don't know how to any of that. So it's a lot different running the business. So I got a coach, and that helped me, holding my hand through the process so that I wouldn't spend, monies that I didn't need to spend. You don't need to spend a lot of money starting a business. I teach that a lot because I don't want people to spend a lot of money. You don't have to spend $10,000 on a website. Your website's going to change so many times.
Tell me about it.
Right, exactly. So they just don't know that. So, and it is overwhelming with all the different things. You will need to spend money. And the more successful you get, the more money you're going to spend because your team's going to grow, and you're also going to need, my coaching now is, I spent a lot of money last year on a coaching program. So, but it's been worth every penny. So the more you spend in your business, there is some advantages to that, but we have so many resources now where we don't have to. So I think that's really important. But when I got somebody to hold my hand through the process, it really helped calm me down and work through my fears. Your mindset is everything. So that just is definitely helped me. So what would you advise them to deal with that? Like decisions that impact their current financial status or family. What advice do you have about that?
So I actually have 5 points that I would like to kind of bring out. And we have touched a couple of them already, but I think we can reiterate all that. So the first one is actually, if you need someone else's approval, you need to bring them on in the process. You can't just, make a decision and then think that they are then happy with that decision. That could be a spouse or a partner or whatever. As an example, when I resigned from my job, my mom was like, oh my God, how could you do something like that? And I didn't tell her immediately. I told her like weeks afterwards. I didn't need her approval. But if I would have done that, I would have had to involve her in the process, telling her, how am I feeling about my current job situation? And why is it that I have the feeling that I need to quit it just like that from one day to the other? And the second one is, and that might sound a little bit contradictory, but it's don't listen to other people's opinions.
Yeah.
Because they will tell you what they feel based on their own fears and their own experiences. And those might not be the things that you, first of all, want to hear, and definitely maybe not what you need to hear, right?
Right.
And the third thing is, which I think is really good, that what you're doing also, Annette, with this podcast, is to be inspired by others. You know, learn from others, hear about others, what they have done, but don't copy them, but use them as, you know, inspiration. Mm-hmm. And number 4, what's the worst thing that can happen? Think about that. What is the worst thing that can happen? And the last one is, which you actually said, the whole thing about the mindset. You need to believe in yourself. You can work on that with a coach, but you need to have some kind of like a basis trust in yourself. Yeah. And then when, like, believing in yourself or your kind of like your mindset, that it's like a muscle. You can train it. It's like when you start going for a run or something. It's really hard in the beginning. And the same thing about believing in yourself or being proud of what you're doing. You need to train that. You need to train how to be kind to yourself. Right. And that is kind of how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. When I started the, you know, you don't want to sound like you don't know what you're doing, right? Because that people are going to be like, well, if she can't run her business, how's she going to run my events? So and you don't know if you're talking to them right. You don't know if your contracts are right. How do you talk about them? What's the system and all that stuff? But I remember that's why and as a planner, I have to have systems in place. It's going to make me crazy if I don't. Right. And so I just remember the first time when, you know, someone would say, you're amazing, or you did an amazing job, or, you know, things like that. And I was like, it starts once you get your confidence, it changes everything. And that's when I teach the kids, that I say kids because I'm kind of older than everybody, but that's what I teach them is when you're on the phone with the client, this potential client, I don't care what you do, just sound confident, be confident, because they're going to feel that. If you're not sure and you're hesitant, it makes all the difference in the world. So, and when I started the show, in fact, someone wrote me today that follows, and because sometimes, you know, we don't have a lot of people on when I'm live, but I do go back and I watch them and I look at the numbers, and the thousands of people watch them after, which is like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. But when I'm on live, you know, we maybe get 20 people at the most that come on live, but we get lots of people after. And so that's what I tell people is you may only have one person watching you at the time that you're talking about something, but you do get a bigger audience, especially across social media. People save, you know, they share stuff and things like that. So don't think that no one sees. And today, in fact, someone that I work with who does a lot of photography for me, wrote me and said, I love your show. You're doing an amazing job, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I'm just here. I started it to help people in the industry. And to get myself visible, because I thought, okay, it'll be great interview and I can talk like crazy. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a good talker, but it's easier talking to somebody else as opposed to doing it on your own. And now I go, you know, I have lots of times I try to go live into my Facebook group, but so it just, confidence is a big thing, and mindset and all of that. It really is. So those are really, really great tips. So what's something you failed at and what have you learned from it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought about this quite a while, actually, and I've started to rephrase it from being failures to actually being pilots. So independently of what we've done in the past, we still kind of we learn from them. So, you know, you pick it up and you need to continue going, learn from what you did wrong or whatever it was. Right. And when I think what I kind of failed at or what I did wrong was when I didn't listen to my gut feeling.
Always.
So exactly, always, right? I even once went to reject a job offer. I was saying, well, I will do this like properly, face to face. I will reject the job offer because that was what my stomach told me, right? So I went there And he totally talked me into it. And I joined that organization. Turns out it's a very toxic organization. The boss was a micromanager. So it all resulted in me, losing my self-confidence and self-esteem. Like on the outside, everything looked perfect, probably, very high position, many employees, managing a lot of things. But I felt as if I had painted myself into a corner, as if I couldn't get out. And it was really, really hard to get out of there, because you also break down your confidence. And confidence is so important, just as we said before, right?
Yeah, it really is. I know. And the one thing about, you're talking about bad environments, that's the thing that I hated working in corporate, is that I couldn't pick who I could work with, Yeah. So I would see all these people around me slacking, getting all these raises, doing a crappy job, and, making way more money than I was. And I was busting my butt and working really hard. And I, you just personalities, people who are miserable, you walk in the morning, you're like, good morning. Cause I'm trying to be like a happy person, and good morning. And no one says anything. And I'm like, oh God, I hate these people. And so I would just close my office door and they're miserable. And I get to pick. That's the best part about having your own business, is you get to pick who you work with, as far as your staff and your clients. And, I remember the first time I had to fire a client, it was a 3-day event and in Las Vegas, and we were only a couple weeks out, and it was just abuse after abuse after abuse. And I finally I called my coach, I called my lawyer, because, I had to have a lawyer. And it was a Sunday, and I said, I can't do this. And they wrote a letter, my attorney wrote a letter, and I got out of it. And I lost a lot of money, and which stressed me out, because at the time, this was early on. And at the time it was like, I needed the money. It was important money. I'd done all this work. I had gotten paid up to that point, but there was a lot of money on the on-site piece of it and commissions that I didn't get. And I ended up losing a lot of money, but I felt so much better getting out of it. So you have choices when you run your own business, and you have to train people how to work with you. I teach that as well. It's important. A lot of people don't know how to work with a planner, and you have to kind of educate them on how to work with you. So, and I think that goes across with any job, right? Anything that you're doing, if you're a coach or whatever, you kind of they hired you for a reason. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think, as working as a coach, the best you can also actually do for your clients, not being like rude or anything, but that is kind of like that they would want to fire you, because then you're asking the right questions. So in your case, it was definitely different, because there was a toxic relationship, right? And you had like lots of guts to actually go down that road and say, I'm done with this. I'm not dealing with this, right?
Yeah. No, it was the best decision I made at that moment. And when I was so relieved, because I knew if I went on site, it was going to be 10 times worse. This was 10 years ago or so. I'm a different person now. So, and I'm a New Yorker for 20 years. Don't mess with me. But, and I'm a redhead. So that, add it all together, it's kind of crazy. But you have to be fair and listen, we're having fun. We're doing events. We're having fun. This should not be something so serious that, people are miserable. And I know it's stressful. Events are stressful because they want it to be successful. And they're spending a lot of money. So, but we've never had a bad event. So I'm always confident about that. And it's always going to turn out. But, it gets crazy. Everybody's a little crazy when it comes to the events world. So, all right. So when you're stuck, frustrated, or overwhelmed, what do you do?
Well, I think it's then really important to kind of take a break and take a couple of steps back.
Yeah.
I actually then usually I go for a walk, especially when I'm overwhelmed, because that is a little bit different to when I'm stuck. But when I'm overwhelmed, I kind of take a step back. I go for a walk. I listen to an inspirational podcast, and then it becomes so much easier to kind of then, even when you think that, oh, holy cow, this is really a bad timing for me now to take a break. That is probably those times that you need the breaks the most.
Yes, yes. So I try to work out every day, and I try to do it in the beginning of my day because it
Yeah.
clears my head. I have my days can be, if you saw my calendar every day, I don't know how I do it, but I feel like sometimes I'm gasping and I'm racing and it's overwhelming. But I try to work out every day. I drink a ton of water and I try to get my sleep. If I can't sleep or things are really getting on me, especially with so many tasks, we have amazing systems in place, because if I'm running, 20 events at one time, that's a lot to think about. So we have to have great systems. Getting it out of my head, the things that I'm thinking about that I need to do, I plan my days and I write down the tasks that I need to do. Getting it out of my head makes me feel so much better. And I got lists for lists for lists. Like, I'm a list girl. So, and I schedule everything. I schedule my workouts. I schedule, like every meeting, date night, whatever that looks like. I schedule everything. And that helps me to not be overwhelmed, because obviously, events are very overwhelming. So, but yeah, but working out and eating right, eating healthy, that all comes, if you're meditating. I don't really meditate that much, but I do my work. I feel like I'm kind of in a meditation when I'm working out. So that does help. But yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. And I think also, to create a daily kind of like a ritual. I also tried, going for walks in the morning and then at the lunchtime and then after lunch and then in the evening, but realized that the only times that I really pull it through every day is when I do it in the morning. So I said to my husband, I want to go for a walk every morning, early morning. And then my oldest son said, yeah, but Mom, I'd love to have breakfast with you. And I was like, okay, so I'll do it after breakfast. And then because my youngest son gets up a little bit later. Yeah. So I do it after breakfast and then I go for a walk and then I come back like fully, energized, because then I've also listened to a podcast. I've had a little bit of a learning when I've done that. And I've spent some quality time with my children. I've gone for a walk and I'm like fully ready to get on the day. But of course there are days when I don't do that either. And then you kind of like regret it afterwards. But then you need to get up on the horse again, do it again. Don't think about, oh my God, that was yesterday,
Exactly. You can't beat yourself up over that. And I know my boyfriend likes to walk in the afternoons. I like to do it in the morning. So sometimes I'll say, okay, I'll wait, but you better go with me or I'm going to go by myself. Exactly. So, and sometimes it depends on the weather. So like if it's going to rain in the afternoon, I've gotten to the point now where I kind of have to go and you've got to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself first to take care of everybody else. So I think that's really important. Okay. So how do you define success and how do you celebrate it? Which is very, very important.
Yeah. Let me start with the celebration. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. I actually also, in my own Facebook group, I do that every Friday. I reach out to my people and say, what are you proud of this week that you have done, what you have accomplished? So it can be small things, small steps. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of like celebrate it, or just, straighten your back and say, well, I actually did this. I'm a little bit proud of that.
Right.
And then how I define success, I think for me, it is that I actually get to do what I love to do, because I'm such a better person with it. I'm such a better mother. And when you're happy, you're like much better person in general. So I think that is kind of like success to me, to be able to do what you love to do, because that impacts everything.
Yes, it really does. I know when I've been around, we've had some family stuff going on this week. And so I've been around my boyfriend's children, and they're all adults, but they, one of them said the other day, I need to call my boss. Their mom is not well. So, but I need to call my boss. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to do that. I'm so glad I don't have to call my boss and say, I can't come in today or whatever that is, because I remember those days of hating to go in, especially Mondays were the worst, I still don't love Mondays, but it's way better than I get to plan it, and so it definitely makes a big decision, and success. So we do seem to forget to celebrate our successes. And I don't care how big they are or how little they are.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that myself, because you get, you put the agreements together, you get them to sign, and you just kind of keep moving on, and you think about the next client, right? And
you put down your head and you continue, right?
You keep going, and you really need to celebrate. And I recently, through this whole COVID situation and me still having a business and going into the virtual platform and having this show and being very visible, which made a difference. People have recognized me as like the top event producer to follow, or, and big companies that are in my industry. And I had a lot of that happen this year. And so I made the least amount of money this past year because of COVID, but me being recognized was the most this year. So that's a huge success, because down the road that does, it pays off. Right. Yeah. It does pay off down the road. And so I have a lot of people, I saw all of my, my Instagram, more people followed, just being recognized. I'm speaking a lot more, which I love to do. And I'm still nervous. Like, even though I can talk about events till the cows come home, I'm still nervous. I get nervous because you think, oh gosh, what if they ask you something you're not going to know? And it's never happened. And I can always, there's always, I know so much about the industry that that's not a problem. But even if you fell, even if you didn't know how to answer it, who knows, right? Nobody's going to say, oh my gosh, she doesn't know what she's doing. If you act like you're confident, and I always say, fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's always that. So, but the littlest celebrations, you need to celebrate, whatever that is,
Absolutely. And weekly, not just, once a year or whatever.
Every time. Yes.
Exactly. Look, when Friday morning or whatever, take a piece of paper. I actually had a boss once. She asked me, could you please put together an email, write to me what you and your team have done the whole week. And first I was like, oh my God, she's such, she just, wants to control me. I think it was because she didn't really knew what I was doing. But to me, so I sat there on the Friday and put together all the things that we had accomplished during the week. And that was such a great exercise, because I actually saw all the things that we had done. And that is also something you can use afterwards if you're still in corporate and you want to do it for these performance discussions or whatever. You have it black on white, everything that you have accomplished.
Right.
So I don't do it like that today, because I don't need to send the email to anyone. But I recognize the small things that we actually do that are great and that we have accomplished and that we are proud of.
But you can post that all over your social media platform. I do that. As soon as someone has recognized me for something, my team posts that, right? Yeah. So we create posts and we put them all over our platforms. If a client says something great about my company and us as a company, I post that. Look, I'm not one to be like braggy and stuff like that, but you need to show people how great you are. You need to show people that that's really, really important. And if a client is saying something great about your company, you definitely should say something about it, and you should post about it so that people can see that, you did this for them and they were really grateful for that. So I love telling stories like that, and I love sharing things like that, and it makes me feel good. And, it makes me feel like I'm doing what I should be doing, and someone appreciates what I'm doing. Because sometimes we get clients that make us feel like they don't appreciate what we're doing, or they think, so here's what happens is we do such a great job and we make it look easy. And then they don't hire us because they're like, well, we can do this. And eventually they come back because they realize, holy cow, that was a lot of work and we never want to do that again. So I will never change that, though. I will never say, okay, I'm not going to do that much work, because I wouldn't even know what that would look like. I just have a job to get done. I have tasks that we have to do, and whatever it takes to do that, we're going to get those done. And so if there are people out there that don't appreciate you, that's on them. So, You just have to keep going with that. So we're almost down to the end. If you guys have any questions, please share them. This is such great. I love talking about this stuff and getting through our fears and because I know there's a lot of people out there who want to start their own businesses. So if you could turn back time and take it to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her?
I would actually tell her to already then listen to your gut and listen to your heart, what it is that you truly want to do. Because that was actually one of the things that made it easier for me to quit my job, because I was like, I've been quite successful doing something that I don't even think is fun, Imagine how successful you can be doing something you love.
I know.
Just do that then. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. Go with your gut. Yeah. I have always gone with my gut, and it's, even though I thought, well, maybe it's funny if I've gone with my gut and maybe that didn't work out specifically, but something else came from it. But the majority of the time I always go with my gut, and it seems to be the right thing to do. And it may not have been that one thing that you thought it was going to be. It always may turn out to be something else. So, well, I just love talking to you so much. Thank you for joining us all the way from Switzerland. How exciting is that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Annette, for having me. I mean, you're doing a fantastic job with this live show, I think.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. How's the weather there? What's it like there?
No, finally, after a very cold and rainy spring, we get some quite warm degrees. So this weekend, we are definitely going to pick out the bathing suits and go to the pools. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's warm here because it's the summer here. Is it the summer there?
Yes. It is.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much, my dear. I really appreciate you being on, and such great wisdom and insight here for everyone. And thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week. Have a wonderful week. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, hun.